Jindal Power may not proceed with its bid to take over stressed domestic carrier GoFirst. This as per various news reports. The news comes, remember, a day when the deadline to submit the final bid for the airline is scheduled to end. Jindal Power, remember, made an expression of interest to take over the GoFirst airline, which was accepted by creditors. Now, Jindal Power has decided not to follow through after evaluating airline's financial statements as per a Reuters report citing persons who are familiar with matter. It also is being reported that creditors are not inclined to extend the last date for submission of takeover bids. In fact, the top creditors of GoFirst include Central Bank of India, Bank of Baroda, IDBI, Deutsche Bank, among others. A meeting has been scheduled for today by committee of creditors who will decide on the future course of action as far as GoFirst and the fate of GoFirst is concerned. Srinath, what's the fate of GoFirst hereafter? What options does the COC, committee of creditors, have?
See, I think if they're not going to find any bidders at whatever valuation, the only thing is then liquidation. We have seen what has happened with Jet Airways. It has played out. So, irrespective of all any positions on the either sides, the bidders or the consortiums, the reality is the airline is stuck. So we will have to take it with a pinch of salt, because what assets does an airline have? I mean, typically it has the seats and the schedule that it owns and the crew. In this case, it's depleting everywhere, and if it has to kick back to life, it needs money infusion immediately to kick back, which it doesn't, which is not getting. Two, it is not finding a new buyer or a new owner, and the reality is then the only thing COC can do is take it to liquidation. And I think with learnings from Jet Airways, then I hope the committee of creditors are very pragmatic and saying that let me not try to revive more than what I can actually handle, and let me just get it.
Mm-hmm. Is it end of road, Kartik, for GoFirst, not coming back?
Looks like, Shweta, pretty much it is the end of the runway. It had been taxied to the runway. I think with that expression of interest by Jindal Power, there was some hope that perhaps a bid would be made. And Srinath is right. I think in the absence of owning physical assets, how do you put a value to the company? And what is the real value of a grounded airline that doesn't have assets? I mean, even in a traditional 3x, 4x of revenue valuation, revenues for the last 6 months have been zero. So 0 into 3, 0 into 4, into whatever is zero. So now how do you make a bid for an airline which has been grounded, which doesn't have assets, and nobody else sees value in it? So I see it pretty much as the end of the runway for GoFirst ambitions to ever take off.
Of a possible pump in money, a credit line that could come in.
Let's see what comes out of the COC meeting. Remember, about 3 months, 4 months ago, they had agreed to infuse another 450, 500 crore rupees or so for the airline to at least continue on the litigation charges, payment of salaries, etc., and any other pending dues that they might have had. But why should they pump in that money now? What is the need to keep that airline on a ventilator if there isn't a doctor who can come and give it that magic injection and bring it back to life?
All right, Srinath, any lessons that we are learning here, or any lessons that we're missing here as far as aviation sector is concerned? One after the other, they keep going under.
See, I think the classic one that we've heard time and again, right? Billionaires enter this space and get out as millionaires. The largest challenge, I think, seems to be that everybody wants a shortcut for valuation gain. And we've been also in the race for announcing large aircraft deals. I mean, every single airline in India, whether it was Sahara, whether it was East West Airline, whether it was Jet Airways, did those all large announcements and deals, and none of them exist. So I think we will have to look at real change in business models and saying that can you also run models without physically owning a lot of those assets? Leasing model is brilliantly available everywhere. And two, it's a very, very tough business. It is a competitive business. So I think the projections that they make, I hope none of them showcase 70 to 80% occupancy from year 2 to say that they will be very, very profitable. It's a tough, cutthroat business. While everybody says that with newer airports opening across India, we've crossed over 200 airports now. The shorter flights, smaller cities that you operate, the shorter turnaround time, it all boils down to operational efficiency. So I think, can we learn lessons from this and get them right? Because the real challenge in India is we almost seems to be working with only duopoly in India, right? Currently, you have one Air India / Vistara and Indigo. I'm not even counting SpiceJet and others. With these two large players with large market share, the reality is we can do with third and the fourth and the fifth decently sized large fleet ones. Where are they? And I think anybody coming in with a large intent and saying, I will stay invested for 7 to 10 years, I think they should enter the business. So this would have been a great ideal move for anybody entering in the COC race, saying
Okay.
that I don't need to pump in that kind of money. I'm entering at a fractional value of that business. And if they had the operational patience to turn it around, it's a good business. And we see everywhere that people are now flying more. And I think very classic, right? If you look at the Indigo's balance sheet, the F&B revenues outstrip a lot of passenger seating revenues in many cities.
So it looks like people are flying less but eating more, or flying as much as they're eating in planes, perhaps. That is the message. It is a good business, but a business that does not seem to have enough players or sustain momentum for a very, very long time. Wafer thin margins, extreme of operational efficiencies that are unable, or many players are unable to meet in due time, resulting in players going under one after the other. GoFirst saga for now is over. There is a full stop, unfortunately. We've reported over days and weeks perhaps of the possibility of GoFirst coming back. That seems very unlikely today. Srinath Sridharan, thank you very much for taking time out for speaking to News9.
Thank you.